everybody, welcome to Steelers Weekly presented by Geico. I am Missi Matthews. It is time now to get you ready for the Steelers' upcoming game.
They're a good football team, really good. They've got a really good defense, and a lot of those guys, I looked at their roster today. They've only got two guys that have been on this team that have been 10 years of experience in the league. So it's not like these guys have been playing us for years and years and years and worrying about how many times the Steelers have won or not. That's not what it's about. It's a new season, new teams, and they're a really good football team.
Hi everybody, welcome to the Matchup Show. I'm Missi Matthews. It's presented by Power Home Solar. We have a great panel in store for you today to preview Steelers and Browns Sunday at 1 o'clock here at Heinz Field. Arthur Moats, you get to go first this week. I made sure so you did not get upset. Former Steelers outside linebacker joining us once again. Mike Prisuta from the WDVE Morning Show. You can catch him on Steelers.com and SNR. And also Matt Williamson from Steelers Nation Radio, kind enough to join us to preview this matchup. And guys, you heard Ben saying that not a lot of people understand. Everyone gets it's an AFC North football game, and that makes it important. So I will start with my first question. Is this a rivalry between the Steelers and the Browns? Arthur, you're first.
Yeah, it definitely is a rivalry. Anytime you're facing a divisional opponent, just the amount of frequency that you play in these teams twice a year, you start to understand the nature of that team, how that organization is run. Also, you build rivalries with certain players on the opposing team. It's just the nature of constantly seeing the same people over and over again. But when you look at just the history of the series, granted, we know that Big Ben has dominated the series in terms of wins and losses. But when you actually look at the scores of some of these games, there are a lot of highly contested one-score games. We've seen a tie happen in this series as well. So when you're looking at that, even though the Browns haven't been able to acquire a ton of wins against the Steelers throughout the duration of the past, 15 to 20 years, they still have been highly contested for the majority of times. And that's why I still feel like it's a rivalry.
All right, Prisuta, what's your take on this?
No question. It's not just a rivalry. It's one of the best rivalries in the NFL. I mean, when you look at it from a historical perspective, Missi, these are two of the most storied franchises in NFL history. They're two franchises that are as popular as any nationally. They're two franchises that have taken turns being among the best teams in the NFL for extended periods. There has been some bitter stuff go on when these two teams get together. There was some bitter stuff that went on last year when these two teams got together. If you're going to tell me it's not a rivalry, I think you're one of those people that wants to say that just to kind of stick it into Cleveland and turn a little harder because the Browns have had it. It's been rough for the last 20 years or so, but tell me it's not a rivalry and then watch Cleveland waltz in here and get a W and then look me up on Monday. You'll think it's a rivalry, trust me.
All right, let's not get that crazy, Prisuta. Matt, the Browns have not won in Pittsburgh in their last 16 tries. What is your take in terms of this is a rivalry or not?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it certainly is. However, I was employed by the Browns as a scout, and the year I was there, it didn't last long. The year I was there, the Steelers were 15-1 with this exciting new quarterback out of Miami of Ohio, and every draft meeting we had, we started that meeting with, how can we beat the Steelers? That came out of Phil Savage's mouth the first thing of every meeting. I'm not sure the same thing happens in this building.
All right, guys, there are a lot of difference makers that will be on the field for both teams on Sunday. You get to pick one. Arthur, you are first. Who is your difference maker in this matchup?
For me, I'm going with Mike Hilton. I think that he's a guy that's going to be impactful in the running game. We know that the Cleveland Browns, they love to run the ball. That's their identity this season. Mike Hilton has done a great job in terms of the run blitzes that they use him on. We know he's very active just in run support. But the other part of why I choose Mike Hilton is because the Cleveland Browns, when they take their shots downfield, it's off of play action passing. And a lot of times it's not to guys like Odell and Jarvis, the quote unquote usual suspects. They do a lot of the deep, longer crossing routes and things like that, where Mike Hilton, he's going to be involved in that action. He's going to be at one of the focal points from a communication standpoint as well as that nickel defender. So for me, man, my eyes are on him because he's going to be a beacon of communication when they're passing, but more importantly, when they're running the ball, he's going to be very active in terms of helping stopping the run, which we know the Browns this year have done a really good job at.
All right, Prisuta, who's your difference maker?
I'm going to go with whatever receiver happens to be the guy that Ben puts his eyes on. I think from an offense, a Pittsburgh offense against the Cleveland defense standpoint, this looks a lot like the Philadelphia game to me. You've got a very good defensive front and a very deep defensive front. You have a linebacking core that looks suspect in the passing game, and you have a secondary. Now, Cleveland's got some injuries back there. Not sure exactly who's going to be playing, but missed tackles are going to be a possibility, I think. Some of those slants and crosses the Steelers like to run, similar to one of the 4 Chase Claypool touchdowns last week, where he caught the ball and then broke the tackle attempt by the safety and ran into the end zone. I think the Steelers can turn some little or medium plays into big plays in that passing game. It's just going to be whoever Ben zeroes in on as the guy to do that.
All right, Matt, what about you?
I'm going with Vince Williams, and for a couple reasons. I mean, first of all, I think the Steelers will be in less nickel and much less dime this week than ever. You're going to see a lot of 2 receiver sets from Cleveland. They like to keep you in your base. They'll use a fullback. They'll use double tight ends regularly. I think they're going to try to target him with those tight ends in the passing game, as well as Kareem Hunt, who's a really good receiver. That's going to be a challenge for Williams. I mean, we know that he's probably their weakest cover guy in the back 7. But more than anything, why I picked him is, first of all, I think his interior blitzing can be very disruptive to Baker. But more than anything, it's just the attitude he brings in a strap it up, stop the run type of game that's going to be so crucial. Williams, that's his specialty.
Don't go anywhere. There's plenty more when Steelers Weekly, presented by Geico, returns. Welcome back, everyone. Steelers Weekly, presented by Geico, continues. Everybody, welcome back to the matchup show presented by Power Home Solar. We are discussing Steelers and Browns kicking off here at Heinz Field on Sunday. We heard after the Steelers game against the Eagles, Coach Tillman talked about the strength of your pack is in your pack in reference to Chase Claypool. You just heard him there again during his weekly press conference talking about the wide receivers that the Browns are bringing here to Heinz Field. So, Moats, we'll start with you. Who is the pack leader in terms of all the different wide receivers we have and could potentially have a big game, and the Browns too, on Sunday?
Man, honestly, that's a very difficult question. When you're talking about the pack leader for this Steelers wide receivers group, for me, honestly, I don't think they have an alpha right now. I think all of those guys are really good, but to me, when I think of the alpha of that wide receiver group, I haven't seen them have the opportunity in terms of matching up against a top-tier corner throughout the whole game and then winning that matchup convincingly. We know in the past we've seen that with top-notch wide receivers in terms of the attention they draw, but right now we just haven't seen it. But I think that is what makes this offense so deadly right now, why the receiver group is so deadly, because you can't just point to Chase Claypool and say we got to minimize his impact when you still know Deontay Johnson, Juju Smith-Schuster, James Washington can still hurt you and still be just as effective. So honestly, I don't think they have a leader right now in terms of the wide receiver group, but I think that's a really good situation for them right now.
Prisuta, do you feel like there's a pack leader?
And wide receiver?
Yes.
Not yet. I think for this game, it's going to be one of the guys who Denzel Ward isn't covering. I think Ward is that type of shutdown corner that Arthur mentioned, the guy that if he's on you, you're going to have a long afternoon in terms of getting open and getting targets. But coming off of the game he had against the Eagles, you would certainly think they would try to go to Chase Claypool early and see if they can keep riding that momentum, particularly out of the slot. And again, we've seen Juju Smith-Schuster turn relatively medium or short passes into big plays because he's hard to tackle. I think the head-hunting nature of the back end of Cleveland's defense is going to lead to some missed tackles and some plays that turn out to be bigger than they should have been.
Matt, in terms of Steelers, their pack of wide receivers, Browns, their pack of wide receivers, which one do you think has a better matchup on Sunday?
Well, to kind of reiterate what these guys said, Denzel Ward's a very good corner. At times he will shadow someone, but usually he's going to line up to Ben's right. I would think if he shadows anyone in this matchup, it's Deontay Johnson, just because stylistically, he's a shorter corner, and I think he matches up better to Johnson than, say, Claypool, who's about 1.5 feet taller than he is. But overall, I think, like what these guys said, the fact that maybe there isn't one alpha dog and there's a lot of really strong options really goes to the Steelers' favor, because their linebackers, their slot corner, their safeties, their other corners that aren't named Ward are really below average right now. And this defense is creating a lot of turnovers and masking some of their deficiencies personnel-wise. So if I have to pick one, though, I think this is a heavy Juju day work in the middle of the field against bad slot corner.
Okay, guys, as always, we ask our fans to submit some questions for us to answer here on the matchup shows. So you will each get one question. Arthur, I'm going to keep going first with you. Don't have any problems this week.
I appreciate you.
Arthur, your question is from Heather. She said, what part of the Browns offense are you most concerned about, the running game or the passing attack?
Oh, man. So for me, I'm a little bit more worried about the passing element. I feel like, to me, with the Steelers' front seven and how they've been able to minimize the running game, I'm very confident in them and their ability to continue to do that. And without them having to run blitz either. I always feel like the run blitz element is kind of like the ace in the hole when it comes to them being able to stop the run. But the thing that I'm nervous about is when you watch the Browns on offense, these first couple of games, they've had some type of trick play, some type of downfield gadget play that has really helped create that splash that you don't necessarily get when you're running the ball as much as they're doing. For me, that's my biggest concern, because we saw last week with the Steelers on offense, even though they didn't have a lot of sustained drives, they were able to connect on splash. And a lot of times splash can mask your inefficiencies in certain areas. So for me, that's what I'm most concerned about with the Browns on offense.
All right, Prisuta, here is your fan question coming up next. This might be Moats' burner account. This is from Arthur Moats, experienced fan.
What?
Can the rush continue to mask the issues with the secondary this week versus a very potent offense?
One more time. I'm still laughing so hard.
I'm not making it up. That is literally the name of the person. I'm just saying, Arthur. All right, the question, Prisuta. Can the rush continue to mask the issues with the secondary this week versus a very potent offense?
Yeah, it's going to have to, right? I mean, this is the way the NFL is played now. I think it was 10 teams last Sunday that won. 10 out of 14 winning teams scored 30 or more points. 3 of them scored 40 or more points. And the Steelers have been a little big play susceptible this season. Their numbers are relatively good statistically. They're showing up in the areas you want to see them show up in. But the challenge this week, to me, it's not so much the rush, it's the contain. If you can keep Baker Mayfield in the pocket, you have a much better chance to turn him over. If he gets out on the wing, that's when the Browns have a lot of big play potential. And, oh, by the way, 2 really good receivers. If you thought Travis Fulgham was making combat catches, Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry are saying, hold my beer right about now.
Steelers Weekly is presented by Geico, where 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on your car insurance. Hi everybody, I'm Missi Matthews. Welcome to Scouting presented by SiriusXM. You can subscribe to SiriusXM's best package, All Access, and get your first 6 months for just $50. Fees and taxes apply. See offer details at SiriusXM.com/scouting. Joining me once again is former Steelers quarterback Bruce Gradkowski. Glad to be doing this with you again this season, Bruce. This is an AFC North football matchup that I think everybody's looking forward to. The first AFC North game for the Steelers. What's the biggest storyline between the Steelers and the Cleveland Browns in your opinion?
Man, I just think AFC football. I mean, it's exciting. Missy, it's great to be back with you again for another season, another year, especially with everything going on. And I think this matchup, man, you got 2 good football teams. Overall, really good football teams. I mean, the Browns, offensively, their grade as a whole, it leads us at PFF, taking out the quarterback. So just the pieces around Mayfield are good. Defensively, they're playing well. So this can just be a really good matchup because we know what the Steelers bring. We know how solid of a team they are. It's going to be fun to watch.
In terms of the Steelers offense, Ben Roethlisberger, we know the storyline coming back from injury. 10 touchdowns, only 1 interception through his first 4 games. What are you seeing from number 7 when he's dealing with an offense that has some new weapons and some young weapons?
Well, it's great to see the big guy back. I'll tell you that, Missy. You know, it's just fun. It looks like he's having fun, the old guy that he is, the old man. But I think the Steelers are doing a really good job of the shifts, the motions, the reverses, the screens to the wide receivers. We saw last week, they're switching it up this year. And that's what I've always loved. I love the misdirection type action. Ben loves the shotgun. The key stat you named, 1 interception. Ben is doing a really good job being efficient, taking care of the football, making really good decisions. And that's what's been impressive because look, he doesn't have to do it all. He shouldn't feel like he has to. He has a good solid defense behind him. He has good pieces around him offensively. So the big guy is playing pretty well right now as he continues to get healthy and more comfortable out there.
Myles Garrett is somebody Ben Roethlisberger called a game changer. 6 sacks so far this season. They move him around a lot. How big of a test will this be for the Steelers offense?
It's going to be a huge test for that offensive line. I mean, you have to know where that guy is. You have to figure out a way to get 2 guys on him to help a running back help out, a tight end help out. And not let him be disruptive. And I think as we saw last week with the Steelers offense, some of the screens, some of the reverses, those type of things, you need to add more of those. And I expect to even see more of those from Randy Fichtner in this offense this week. So that's one way to kind of slow that pass rush, especially Myles Garrett, down.
All right, flipping over to the Steelers defense, they do not hide the fact they like to blitz. They like to get after the quarterbacks. 20 sacks so far this season. Did they take another step so far? I know it's only a small sample size of 4 games from 2019 to this year, in your opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I love the way the Steelers defense has played the last 2 years. You know, physical, getting turnovers, flying around to the football, and they're playing with that camaraderie. A lot of good veteran leadership on that side of the ball. Hayden, Hayward, Tuitt's back, which is awesome to watch and see. And then you have Bush getting better, 1 year better. And so they're fun to watch. I think the Steelers, total generated pressures for us at PFF, they're number 1. I think it's like 123 or so. So they're getting after the quarterback. And that's what you have to do this weekend against Mayfield. Switch up coverages on him, disguise it, blitz him, just surround him in the pocket. You have to contain him in the pocket. Shorter quarterbacks like myself, we lose vision at times downfield, especially when guys are around us. And I think the Steelers have always done a great job getting pressures after that quarterback, and they have to this weekend.
Bruce, really looking forward to this matchup. Thanks so much for your time and helping us break it down.
Yeah, thanks, Missy. Good luck this weekend.
Everybody, welcome back. It is time now for our keys to the game presented by your neighborhood Ford store. Okay, Arthur, sticking with you first for the end of the show here. Give us your key to Sunday versus the Browns.
Well, first off, Missy, I wanted to just tell you did a phenomenal job getting me in the offense, getting me involved early. I'm one of those players, I need attention early on so I can feel good about myself. And right now, I'm just on an all-time high. So for me, when I'm looking at this matchup, the key to me is the Steelers offense protecting the ball. They're going to have numerous opportunities to move the ball in this Browns defense. Matt talked about how their splash has really covered up a lot of their inefficiencies defensively. But they do have a league-leading 12 turnovers, and they've done it through interceptions and fumble recoveries. So that's the biggest thing for me, man. Protect the ball. If you protect the ball, they're going to be fine moving the ball against that Browns defense.
All right, Prisuta, give us your key to the game.
I'm going to keep it simple, and I'm going to do that understanding. I know it's a big game because whenever you hear Williamson talking about backside gap integrity, man, this isn't just another Sunday. But yeah, it's
real.
A lot of nuances to this game, guys. But if Cleveland runs the ball, the Steelers are going to have problems. It's going to be a much longer afternoon than it might be if they don't let Cleveland run the ball. If you listen to Cam Hayward this week, he talked about the tackles in particular for Cleveland, Conklin and Jedrick Wills out of Alabama. That has completely changed the Cleveland offensive line. It's now a very good offensive line. It used to be a very bad offensive line. And Cam mentioned a couple times these guys finish. They're big. They're nasty. You know, those big boy pads that Matt referenced that Vince Williams is going to be bringing. This is going to be a street fight, a barroom brawl in the trenches, and the tougher team's got to win it. If the Steelers stop the Browns there, then they have a chance to dictate the way the rest of the game goes.
Okay, Matt, you can take a shot at Prisuta or give us your key to the game. Either works.
Moats kind of took mine, to be honest with you. I was going to go with the dozen turnovers, but hey, I can spin off of it. You know, I mean, because they've created so many turnovers on defense, it's masked that their back seven minus Ward is very vulnerable. It's also masked, and this is where I really want to go with it, that Baker Mayfield isn't playing well. I know their record is strong. I know the offense is producing. He's playing very fast, very frenetic, and it hasn't been exposed because they have great starting field position. They're taking the ball away when things aren't going well. They're obviously running the football really well. So if you can make Baker beat you, I think that's a real tough chore for the Browns. I mean, he has a remarkable string of passes batted down, fumbles, interceptions. He doesn't see the field well because he's not a taller guy. He has to scramble to find lanes. I think the Steelers front really is going to give him problems.
Okay, guys, that's going to do it for this edition of our matchup show presented by Power Home Solar. Thanks to Arthur Moats, Mike Prisuta, and Matt Williamson for joining me, getting ready for the Steelers' first AFC North football game on Sunday. That's going to do it. We'll see everybody next week.